Yeah, now we are into the core of the workshop. So you can take, you don't have to take notes because the video will be available. Pay attention. If you have any questions, just put on the chat and then we'll have a discussion afterwards. If you could, Manjula or Neeraj, just read out these questions when I'm presenting, I can answer right away. So one more minute and I'll be starting. Okay, I think I can start. Okay, this session is about essentials of research writing, and we'll be deep diving into different components of research, what you should do, you should not, and what are the some. We will also see some of the best practice. So the outline, it's quite long, as I was saying before. So bear with me. Most you'll also get to know the publication process, rejection. It's not easy to publish research and where you should be publishing because just publishing research may not help if you don't publish in the right place and the best practices. Let's start with the introduction, right? So what is a research paper? I asked ChatGPT, it gave me, okay, research paper is a structured document, blah, blah, blah. But let's look into the important components of this definition. It says structured document. Yes, research paper is a structured document. It's not any random document. It has to follow certain structure. The other important component, it's an in-depth study of a specific topic. Yes, this is very important because research is not just you don't want to write any random thing like, okay, this will be this, like the novels, the story. It's not that kind of thing. It's a very specific structured document on a specific topic based on original research or the review of the existing literature. So these are the different kinds of research that you will be doing. And it's written by scholars, researchers, students that contribute to the new knowledge, analyze existing findings, or propose novel theories. So these are the important aspects of research paper that constitutes when a paper is structured, has in-depth study on something, and it contributes to new knowledge, new findings, or propose new novel theories, then that you can say is a research paper. Is it a good one? Can you validate it? We'll look into the upcoming slides when we discuss about the different process of manuscript publication and how it goes through. So writing research paper requires a substantial effort. And it's not easy to generate, definitely not in a semester, because if you are new, if you're getting into the field, you need to understand different aspects of research as well, even the research paper just before the research. And that's why you are here. So it's hard, and you have to be very, very dedicated to work, not just in terms of conducting research, but also putting what you have done into the paper in a structured format. Here's an example. On the left, it's a research paper. On the right, it's a blog, which does not constitute a research paper because anyone can go and write a blog. You can just start a website and write something else. You could do that. You can use AI generated text. That does not constitute a research or the research paper because it does not contribute to the new knowledge. You may say, yeah, it does summarize things. Yes, it gives you some aspect of knowledge, but still, that's not a research paper. The question is why, what types of research one can conduct, right? Um, these are the non-exhaustive list. You can conduct the foundational research, one that focuses on gaining new knowledge, like in the computer science, if you want to study specific aspect of computing, for example, in the SPC, how is different computer architecture affecting the calculations, right? The bits and bytes. And in other fields, people might study, for example, in the neuroscience, how neurons communicate in the brain. Those are the foundational aspect that aims to gain the new knowledge. The other kind of research is the applied research that focus on solving real world problems. For example, in applied manner, uh, like the autonomous vehicle, fake, deepfake detection, those are things. And translational research is more focused on healthcare. So what you want to do is take your research. It doesn't have to be just in the medical domain. It may be from the computer science or the multidisciplinary research, and you take that research and apply it to the human health to improve the human health. And that's the translational research. For example, people doing neuroscience can use their findings to solve Alzheimer's disease. People from computer science can have, for example, drug discovery. Those are the kinds of research that falls into the translation research, like something related to healthcare and to improve the human health. And Alzheimer's, if you don't know, it's a brain disorder that destroys the memory. At least it's a very, it's not nice to have, and I'm not sure if there's this cure for this. Okay, before now starting the structure of research paper, you may be questioning why do you want to do research, right? You want to do research because it provides credibility about your knowledge. It provides recognition, and it's needed in sectors like for you to graduate, in the case of PhD students, for professorship, for their promotions, and if you're applying for higher studies, it will help you, definitely help you in grabbing the scholarship. It doesn't guarantee, but having it will change the odds of getting a scholarship. The structure of the research paper, as I was saying before, it's a structured document and it follows certain pattern. Okay, these structures might vary depending on the publications where you publish and depending on the types of research you are in. I mean, the area of research. In computer science, they may follow different structure, a little bit of different structure than the one in the medical domain and so on. But despite the area of research, the fields, these are the general component of the research paper that almost all of the paper will have. First one is the title. It should be short, catchy, and convey your research, what your research paper is about. It's nothing to discuss. You don't want to have, I don't know, 50 words title. That's absolutely crazy. And that's not helpful. And people, a publisher will not even allow these kinds of things. Next one is abstract, introduction, literature review. Those are the sections. The methodology, experiment results and discussion, conclusion, and you'll have the references or biography section where you print all those references that you have cited throughout the paper. Now let's look into each of these components one by one. Abstract, right? What is abstract? It's a you can say mini introduction of the paper. It provides the overview of the research paper. It summarizes and conveys what you have done, why you have done, and what results you have achieved. This is very important component of the paper because people When they search for the paper, they will first see the abstract, not the complete paper. Abstracts are usually between 150 to 250 words. Some publications, some journals or conference will explicitly specify the word limit. In that case, it may vary, but usually it's between 150 to 250 words. Generally don't include any references, but there are papers they do, but in general case, you don't want to include reference in the abstract. Avoid abbreviations unless it's widely known. Those are the best, like avoiding abbreviations, yeah, the best one of the best practices that you would have. And based on the publisher field, the abstract may vary. Some publisher may ask you to have subsections in abstract. Usually it's not the case in the field of computer science. We don't have subsections, but if you see in some other fields like medical domain, you have some subsections like objectives, results. They want to specifically highlight those things on the abstract so that people already know what you have achieved. So this is the abstract, one of the core component of the research paper, basically summarizing what you have done, why you have done, and what you have achieved. You need to be careful on how you formulate your abstract. It should cover your research, and there should not be misalignment with rest of the components of the paper. Now, here you can see abstract for this paper. I have highlighted different components just to give you overview of how you should write abstract. If you see, okay, I've said food security is something, and then here I've given a big picture, this first highlighted. And then on the second text, I say disruptive technologies like AI can contribute to sustainability, and I've given examples where they have used, and then why, how it can help, right? The big picture of the problem that I'm trying to solve and how technology can help. And then this section is very important, the one highlighted with the yellow. Here I say, okay, there have been studies conducted on the agricultural sustainability using deep learning and also semantic web technologies, blah, blah, blah. But then I say, and knowledge graph. But there's a major challenge. This is the thing that this paper is trying to contribute to. And that's what I'm saying here. There are the major challenges, and this paper is addressing that challenge, and we have done so using this method and then achieved this result. So what will it contribute? This is the result and the impact. The same thing that I was discussing. So this paper is providing overall picture of what this research paper has done and what it has achieved. And you can also see the title. It aligns with abstract, what I'm doing, right? It is improving prediction accuracy, user level explainability using deep learning and knowledge graph. Here you can see, okay, accuracy, and I also say talk about explanation was found to be useful based on some evaluation. And you can see the food security and the agricultural research here on align with the title itself, where I say study in cassava disease. Here's another abstract. Not you can see. I was saying a while before, some publisher will ask you to explicitly specify uh, have subsections. Here you can see objectives. You clearly see the objectives of the research study setting, how they have done the study, what results they have achieved, and then conclusion, like what is the final conclusion that this paper is giving. So the takeaway from this abstract is it should be concise, clear, and communicate what you have done, why you have done, what you have achieved, despite whatever the format you may have, and using 150 to 250 words. Next is the introduction. One of the most important part of the research paper, I would say. The important, based on my experience reviewing paper, if you have bad introduction, your paper will get rejected and the reviewer should not even read further. Okay, one of the most important part of the paper, and it should clearly convey what research you are doing, why you are doing uh, that particular research, and why does it matter to the global community? Why should you do that particular research? The introduction should follow the funnel structure. You see, it starts with the big thing and then it gets narrower and narrower. That means the introduction should start with the broader context and you narrow down to your specific research problem and then concludes with research objectives, significance, or research question. Always remember the introduction should start giving the big picture, like in the case of the abstract, and then it should be narrowed down. Should be max 1.5 to 2 pages long. You don't want to have 5 or 6 page introduction because there are page restrictions on number of pages that you can have when you write a paper. Depending on journal, it allows, I think, 15 to 20 pages. Conference, 8 pages, 5 pages, 4 pages, 12 pages, depending on conference. You need to see the page restrictions. They have the guideline for that. Okay, the introduction can have subsections, like you can have specific subsections like motivation, goal, contributions. Motivation provides the broader significance of the problem. Goal, you should clearly articulate the objectives, research question that's being explored by your research, and the contributions should highlight, okay, what contributions you made on this paper, what is the new thing that you did, or what analysis you did, and how you did. You can use the bullet points to organize these contributions, goals as well, even for motivation. Here you can see introduction for one of the paper. I start with the introduction, I give some overview, and then there's subsection like motivation, goal, and the contribution. So if you see the goal, it says the ability to accurately predict failure is an essential factor. It allows for something else, and then the aim of this study is to improve reliability of cloud service by improving failure prediction, something that this paper is pursuing, the objectives of this paper, and using some kind of technique. And based on this motivation and goal, whatever their motivation was, they have proposed some metrics, some combined metrics approach. They use some AI to some AI approaches to analyze advantage, disadvantage. So basically their contribution. So they have highlighted their contribution in the bullet points. It doesn't have to be always like this, because you can have you don't need to have these subsections. You can embed that already as a part of introduction. We'll look into these different types of research papers when we do interactive session. Right. The most important takeaway from the introduction is it should be it should clearly communicate. I can't emphasize more enough here. Clearly communicate what you are doing, why you are doing, the research gap that you are addressing. If it's not clear, you will get comments either for the revision of your paper or you'll get rejection right away. I'm telling from my experience as a reviewer. I've rejected paper where it was not clear the significance of research that they are doing, the research problem that they are pursuing, the research question, what kind of problems that they are addressing. That needs to be clear and the broader significance as well, the impact that paper can have. The other section of the research paper is the literature review. Uh, it provides the state-of-the-art overview in relation to the work that's being pursued. Uh, Literature review may be optional for some journals. In computer science, it's almost always required. You can see this is one of the structure recommended by this Artificial Intelligence and Agriculture journal. Here you don't see literature review section, but what you do is all those components you include in the introduction itself. So detailed literature review survey, summary of the results. So you don't need to have it as an explicit section as a literature review. It should contrast existing research, highlights the gap and the advancement that you made. It should also highlight if you're reusing some components of the existing research, saying that, okay, this research has done something XYZ, it has this gap, but it has also some good components that we are adapting in our research. It's not that you want to say, uh, okay, this has done something, it's not very great, and we are doing this. No, you are expanding on the existing body of knowledge. So you should always also highlight what you're expanding on or upon. So one of the best tips that I can give in the literature review section is to have a table comparing your work, highlighting the research gaps. That's very useful. And always, I would suggest whenever you are doing writing a research paper, include it on the paper. So the other thing that I wanted to highlight is you should group the state-of-the-art works based on type. Here I see in this paper, for example, you can maybe find this paper using this link. It has grouped different types of related works. You see, server level failure prediction, virtual machine level failure prediction. So this categorization already helps reader. So if you may say, is it strictly necessary to have this grouping? I would say no. But if you don't have this grouping, and if I randomly put things together, it will uh, it's not good because it will create a confusion. One time you are discussing server and next time virtual machine, and then it's not, it doesn't become coherence. So it's nice to have grouping. Okay, if you are doing systematic literature review, one of the kind of the study, then you should, it's suggested to follow the Prisma models. So what Prisma models is, it gives you all those guidelines on how you should conduct systematic literature review, how you should look for the research, how you should screen the papers, filter, and how you should also, uh, how you should determine the criteria for filtering, and then proceed on to literature review. So this is the flow diagram from the Prisma models. You see, find records, you look into this is database, you screen some n number of publications and you study it, excluded results, all kinds of things. I would suggest everyone here to look into these Prisma papers. The links will be available in the slides and you'll be able to access slides afterwards. So this is for the literature review. The main takeaway I would want to give you on the literature review section is it should contrast and the gaps and advancement that you're making. Also highlight the body of knowledge that you are expanding your work on. The methodology, one of the critical part of the research paper. It's the central component of the research section that highlights the overall strategy and rationale behind your approach or the method, why you are doing things the certain way and why not for the other way. For example, if you say, I want to do it, use the mean and not median for my analysis, then why are you doing that? Why you are selecting mean over median? Those kinds of things. All those kinds of consideration that falls into the methodology. Not to be confused about methods and methodology. They are not same. But if you see most of the paper in different journals, they ask you to have sections like materials and methods where uh, people are also defining methodology, not having explicit methodology section. So that may lead to confusion, but don't be confused. They are not similar. Research methodology provides a theoretical framework, defines the research design justification for the specific methods used. In simple way, in simple terms, you can say it's a systematic way to solve the problem and dictates how the problem will be solved. Research methods, or the methods on the other hand, are the actual techniques that you apply to conduct research specifically on a subject or a topic. For example, how did you collect the data? Or how did you uh, uh, solve this specific problem? What techniques you used? The mean and median that I was talking for. For example, one can calculate mean and median, right? And then apply in research. But the consideration for this thing, like which one to use on which research, constitutes a methodology. Methodology are more focused on explaining questions such as why particular should be used, what types of data to be collected, and how. Some of the things that I am explaining here may not strictly apply to computer science and maybe more useful to other domains such as uh, healthcare or the medical research or genomics research. You may not see those kinds of methodology in a computer science research paper. That's what I'm saying. It differs from research from types of research and also from the field. Despite the variation across discipline, the central component, however, remains the same. The methodology should convey why you are doing particular things and why you are doing the way that you have chosen to do. You should always justify things in your methodology, and it should be very clear. If you are using methodology like very standard, widely adopted methodology, you don't need to explain and then explain in deep. Otherwise, you need to make it clear. An incorrect and unclear methodology, even the methods, not just methodology, can lead to the rejection of the paper, or you may get criticism from the reviewers for the revision. This nice paper about research methodology and research methods, I would encourage everyone to read this. The other thing is unclear methodology can also lead to irreproducible research. For example, if you don't clearly specify how you have done things, what are the considerations that you have taken into doing certain things, other people may not be able to reproduce your work. And it's a huge burden, both in terms of financially, because it takes money and time to do that work, and it's not good for science as well. Here you can see the example from one of the computer science paper. There's things that I was mentioning before. The materials and method sections, you have data collection, dataset description, strictly not having the methodology section. And here you can see the methodology section, highlighting the methodological component of the research paper. So I'd like to ask, are there any questions? Because I cannot see if not, then I can continue. Because those are the important components of research paper. And the main takeaway from the methodology is it should be clear and it should convey why you are doing certain things and the considerations that you are making. The other important aspect of the research paper is experiment. This may not apply to all kinds of research. For example, the review paper that may not have experiment section, and it describes all components, I would not say different, but all components of experiment. Example, dataset used, hardware, software, how the experiment was conducted, especially also describe the tools used, metrics used for the evaluation, what kinds of metrics, for example, if you're doing machine learning this research, did you use F1 score alone, or did you use accuracy, precision, and other kinds of metrics? Yeah, the same thing that I
Hello,
was just,
sir.
yeah.
I would like to I would like to know one example about the difference between methodology and methods. Have you,
Okay,
can
so
you show us one example?
okay, the one that I was showing before, for example, computing mean and applying on your research paper, that answers your research question, that falls into the methods. But deciding which one is suitable, either mean or median, taking that consideration and deciding, okay, for this research, I need to do this, X, Y, Z, and I could, I'm using mean because X, Y, Z, because of this reason. That falls into the methodology section. We'll look into that more into when we do hands-on session. But that's one of the example that I could give you right now. And if you see from the medical domain, if people are doing, okay, they want to do some kind of random trial-based experiment, that falls into the methodology. And for that random trial-based experiment, they use ANOVA technique. That's a specific experimentation technique and methods they used. Uh, that's the method. ANOVA is one of the statistical methods that you can apply for the data analysis. Okay, let's continue with the experiment. In the computer science, for example, in the machine learning, you should also describe training and testing component in the experiment section. How you did the training, how you evaluated your machine learning models. So to sum up the experiment, it should encompass everything about experiment. The tools, even the language you use. For example, if you use Python, you should, I use Python, I use this library, you should also say that things in detail. Depending on where you are publishing, it may not be strictly necessary to put all those details because of the page restriction, but in journals, they definitely want all kinds of information. And the results and discussion, the other section, that's interpreting your experimental results and discussing, making a discuss and having a discussion about your results. It presents the results or findings of your study clearly. Use tables, figures, graph to support your findings. Whenever you're using all those tables, figures, generating figures, it should be readable. And figures should be standalone. So even without description, it should be able to convey the message that you want to give. Make sure you interpret your results correctly because it's very easy to generate all those numbers. You can have accuracy, you can have precision metrics, you can write a code, run and get those numbers. But what does those numbers mean? Making interpreting it correctly is very, very important and one of the skills that not many people have. So I'd encourage you to focus on the interpretation aspect as well. For the computer science, always compare your results with the state of the art, and that's even the reviewer expect if you don't have included. For example, if you're doing image classification, and then you could say you got 98% result. So what does it mean in terms of other existing bodies of research? How does it compare that 98%? Because if I'm using very balanced and if I have more data, and that means that result may not hold significance if it doesn't generalize to other scenarios where data are noisy or in other domain where the data is scarce, right? Your accuracy might fall, so you should compare where your research stands in terms of existing research and how does it improve, makes an improvement. Here's an example. For example, here you see the accuracy level that this research has achieved. It doesn't make significant improvement in terms of accuracy, very marginal. Uh, But if you see what extra this paper brings is the explainability aspect that other papers are not bringing onto the table. So that's giving showing that's what showing like how this paper is contributing, not just in terms of accuracy. Yes, it has marginal improvement, but it also discusses why it has just marginal improvement, and it also says it has some explainability aspect. Now, the other important part of the paper, just conclusion. It just restates your problem, summarizing what you have done so far, but avoids but one of the key things is to avoid repetition, and it also should and the significance and implications of your findings. What does it mean? You found something, you improve accuracy. What does that mean? What does that translate to? And it should also highlight the limitation of your study and also provide the future direction. What are the limitations of your study? If you say you don't have limitation, that's not good because everything has limitation, and you cannot say you don't have limitation. Right. Now we have completed the research structure of the research papers. We looked into different components of the research paper, how you should organize and what information it should contain. Let's move on to the publication process. Now, let's say you have written the paper following all the structure, and then you want to send to the publication, right? For the publication, how does it work? How is the publication process? So this is here you can see the publication process. You submit your paper to journals and conference. It doesn't matter. They will do internal check. They will determine the suitability of the published, like the paper submitted. And once they determine like it's suitable, it will go through the peer review, and the reviewers are the expert in the field. At least two, three, or sometimes even four reviewers may be short. And then they will read your paper, what you have written on that structured document. They'll read through it, and then they'll determine if it's good enough or if it's contributing to the body of science and should be published. They also may determine that some aspects of paper needs to be improved. In that case, they will give you the revision, and then you make the changes according to their suggestion or according to their criticism, whatever you may consider, and then you resubmit the process. Once you resubmit the process, and it will again go through the revision. So it's not that you revise the paper, you submit, and it's accepted. No, it will go through the revision again to see if you have addressed all those comments. And that's what it's showing here. The timeline here, it doesn't translate to actual timeline. And then once reviewer determine accept, and then you'll get a notification from the editor-in-chief saying acceptance, formal acceptance. And then you have the post-production process where you improve the paper. The publisher will improve the like paper according to their journal, like the formatting and stuff. And then they will ask you to review if everything looks good, and it will be published. So just why am I saying this timeline here does not translate to actual practice? Because for journal, it can take up to a year. Uh, for some journals, it may take more than a year once you submit to the decision and going through all this process. And even with that amount of time, it doesn't guarantee that it will be published. So it may get rejection at the last moment. You do second revision, third revision, and then if that is not good enough, it may get rejection as well at that point of time. So that's why research is hard. It's not about you writing, it's also about you convincing the experts that what you have done is good enough and holds significance. Whenever you are submitting the paper, you need to write a cover letter. Cover letter for the submission. And what should the cover letter contain, or why is it important to write a good cover letter? Because remember, you have seen on the publication process, there's an internal check. People will be, usually editors will be reviewing the submission. They want to know, they will check the formatting, if it follows guidelines and other things, but they also want to know what knowledge this, what not new knowledge, or what kind of a contribution that paper is making. They don't want, they will receive, I don't know, lots of hundreds or even thousands of submissions, so they can go through all the papers. So it's the cover letter that conveys what you have done and why your paper is suitable for publication to the journal. It's a use the therefore it should be 1 to 1.5 pages. I would say limit it to 1 page. Use the formal and professional language. Always address it, the letter to the editor-in-chief of the journal. Ensure clarity and the logical flow in your letter. Emphasize the impact and novelty of your research, why your research is suitable for that journal, why it should be published. Note that cover letter is used by editor, one of the things to screen the submission. Avoid redundant and unnecessary details because you have 1.5 pages restrictions, so you want to clearly restrict what you have, what you are including. Here's an example, one of the cover letter from one of the submission. So I say, okay, I have addressed to some editor-in-chief of the journal, specify title, journal name, and then clearly highlights what this paper address, right? The challenge that this paper is addressing. And yeah, what contributions are, how it's contributing to the field. So other than that, you see the other important component here is like, what are the major contributions or findings that we have made, from this paper? Findings, something we have done, yeah, this new contribution, and we have found these things. And then I also say there's no conflict of interest, because if authors are fighting amongst themselves, you should not submit the paper. You should resolve the conflict, and then you should submit the paper. And then I say, okay, redirect all the correspondence to this author because it's a corresponding author, and I just close this later. This is how the cover letter should be written. You don't have to exactly follow this structure, but it should always include these components. And it's a good one that you want to use it as a template. And here's the one for the revised submission. For example, it seems that this paper was not accepted in the first instance. You see the level of complexity and the process that you may need to go through publishing. Uh, Even for the professor submitting the paper, it will not get accepted. That paper in a journal or conference just because they are professor. It will go through the same peer review process as a new someone who is new into the field. Here I say, okay, I'm submitting our revised paper title into the journal, and we made the following major changes in line with the reviewer comment. And when you receive the revision, you should also highlight the sections. There you'll receive the comment and answer for each comment, provide what changes you have made on a separate document. Yeah, revising manuscript. Uh, Clearly read through the reviewer's comment, revise the manuscript accordingly. In case of major, okay, you get different kinds of revision. Major revision, minor revision. In case of major revision, you must address all the comments of the reviewer. If you don't, your paper will be rejected. If it's a minor revision, because sometimes reviewer make comments that may not make sense, You can critically argue and say why you are not making changes. That's fine, but you have to answer their question. And while submitting the revised article, it goes through the same process, except for initial screening. That will people it will not go through the initial screening, but rest a peer review process, you have the same process. And you should also include the cover letter to clearly communicate what changes you have made. In addition to the reviewer feedback document, you need to upload a document where you say, okay, what are the comments that were made and how did you address it, and where in the paper that is being addressed. Whenever you are addressing, be constructive, even if you disagree with the reviewer, because I know it's hard when someone says it's a bad work, or it doesn't make sense. You are doing the way you are doing. That's something you may not like, but that's academics. It's not about you like or you don't like uh, their comment, but is it helping improve your paper? Is it helping shaping your paper? That's what you should be thinking in a professional way. Don't take reviewers' comment as personal, because they don't know you. They just read the paper and they give their feedback on the paper based on their expertise. Always use the formal and the professional language. Okay, not addressing reviewers' comment will lead to rejection of your paper. Yeah, we say it will lead to rejection, and I want to discuss the rejection because rejection is one of the important component of research, I would say, because your paper will not get accepted on the first time. You'll have to revise, you may need to submit to the multiple places, and you should be ready to face rejection. That's the truth, even for experienced people, not just for someone new. There are different kinds of rejection. For example, the desk rejection, it's also the initial one that gets some paper gets rejected uh, if when like even before sending it to the reviewer. We call it the desk rejection. The reason you don't follow the journal, fit into the journal scope, or haven't prepared document according to journal guidelines. Other reasons for rejection are poor writing or the presentation. It does not convey the message clearly. I don't know, due to lack of clarity, there's no coherence. You say you are doing this X, but you don't communicate why you are doing X and why you should do. You have a poor abstract introduction. You don't clearly communicate significance of your research or the research gaps that you are addressing. If you don't, and also the research question that you are answering, your paper is answering, then the paper will get rejected, get criticism from the reviewer. Grammar, spelling, error, formatting issues, like figures are not readable, those kinds of things also contribute to the rejection. Methodological flaw, for example, inappropriate methodology or lack of proper validation, insufficient results, or results are not convincing enough to support your research question or the hypothesis that you have made. Unclear research questions, problem addressing lacks the novelty. What new thing that you're doing? If someone has already done that thing, why you should do that thing, right? There should be some new novelty component. Either you've developed new methods or you did some analysis that's contributing to new knowledge. Again, not addressing reviewers' comment is also one of the reasons for the rejection. The other rejection is the ethical issue, like plagiarism. We have a separate session for this one, and not following or compliance with other guidelines, for example, when the research involves human or animal subject. Right. Uh, we have seen the structure of the paper, also the publication process, the rejection, why it happens. Why now you're ready to publish, but then where should you publish your paper, right? Publications are important, but if they are not published in the right place, it means nothing. Because there are predatory journals, that means fake journals. They you all kinds of things. Uh, and if you publish there, that's like uh, you are throwing your paper in research works, hard works in some garbage. So if it's there, no one is going to, you'll not get credit. Rather, you'd have a negative criticism from the peers. Always check the reputed place like ACM, IEEE. You can check the journals from this link. SCI, Scopus Index journals, those are trusted one. You should always look for those. For the conference, you can check, follow the links and see the top conference in the field, or you should also see where people in your domain are publishing their paper, and it's safe to publish there because if everyone is publishing in some places, it's likely not predatory. You can also check the Google Scholar. Uh, if you view the top venues, it will give you the top publication location. Yeah. Here's an example of the predatory publisher, how they approach. You see, they say, okay, dear authors, blah, 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 we have this published in our research. Here they say, okay. They reduce some publication fee just for me. That's that kind of thing. Now, let's look into the best practices. We have been talking about different components of research. You should do include this and that, but what are the best practices? Yeah, always follow the funnel structure for the introduction. It's very, very important. I don't know how to emphasize more about this. Always check the guidelines. At some journal requires specific sections, structure, section is structure for organizing paper. Always spell out acronyms the first time they appear. For example, if you say AI, you need to also write in bracket artificial intelligence one time. For the abstract, it's should be self-sufficient, meaning that if you have introduced an abstract, you need to reintroduce an introduction. But if you have introduced an introduction, it can go throughout the paper, rest of the section. You don't have to reintroduce any sections. Always proofread and make sure your paper is free from issues such as typos, grammatical errors. Figures are clearly readable. Methodology and methods are clear and understandable, and it's well written. Record your experimental setup and experiments in detail, like what kinds of hardware you use, how did you train your model, for example, in the case of machine learning. Follow the referencing guideline of the publisher. For example, if you are publishing ACM, they want to have ACM referencing format. If you're publishing in IEEE, they want the IEEE format. So follow those referencing guidelines. Make sure your references are complete, meaning that it includes DOI, conference venue, not just includes the link, name of the authors. So it's complete, it's detailed. Whenever possible, always try to compare with the state-of-the-art works, the one that I was showing in the results and discussion section. And thank you.